But right now, we need to look back in the rearview mirror with our man Barrett Jones.
We do. He is presented with us when he joins us by Gus's World Famous Fried Chicken. He grabbed some on the way home tonight for the family. 2201 2nd Avenue South. Online, GusFriedChicken.com. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. What's up, Barrett? How are you?
How are we doing, guys? Yeah, sorry for my different location. We're battling a little family cold today.
Uh-oh. Well, that's all right. We don't care where you join us from, just that you join us. What?
Don't violate my HIPAA and ask me any further questions.
Okay, I'll move it right along. I will not do that. I wanted to ask you, because I knew you were there as a fan, what were your thoughts on that game and that venue? I really liked Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, I did too. I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. It was definitely cold. That was probably my only negative feedback, was just that, if I'm going to be really spoiled, and I would love to go to, Miami or New Orleans or Dallas or LA or somewhere where it's a little warmer. But I thought it was really cool. And I think Indy's a pretty cool town. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was something different. And you're right. It's a tremendous venue. And one of the most underrated stadiums out there.
Look, I know you were disappointed, a former player that's won multiple national championships. And I know, you're professional when you're broadcasting, but when you're a fan and you get caught up in the moment. But when you reflect, talking to some different Alabama fans, Barrett, I mean, they respect just how this season unfolded and where this team ended up. And, you've had so many championships in the past. I think Alabama fans can still enjoy 2021 and a lot of these accomplishments.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, obviously, first of all, you're right. I was very clear. I had like 3 different A's, on my chest. I was not pretending. I know some analysts they're too cool to, kind of pretend like they're Bama fans. If I'm not working the game, look, I'm a Bama fan. All right, I played at Bama. Let's be honest. So I was sold out. There was no doubt who I was rooting for in the game. But yes, I agree with you. I think it's, I've said it many times, and I might still believe it, that it was Coach Saban's greatest coaching job ever. I thought he did a fantastic job. I mean, one thing that hasn't, I don't think, been talked about enough, obviously we all know about the 2 wide receivers, but I mean, they were missing their 2 starting corners too. I mean, that's a big deal, especially when you're playing a national championship game. And why Georgia waited until the 4th quarter to start throwing at those corners, I have no idea. But they did it at the right time. So I thought the toughness, I thought when Jameson Williams went out, I think we all probably were like, oh, okay, it's probably over. But I thought the fight and the battle from Bryce Young in particular, man, I got to just take my hat off to Bryce Young. I thought he was absolute nails, man. I did. He had some unbelievable throws in that game that will never show up on a stat sheet. It felt like there were 4 or 5 opportunities for somebody to make a play for him. And unfortunately, I think a lot of those guys are going to be really good players, but they didn't make them in those big-time moments. I mean, he put some balls in some great locations. Even that play right before the interception, I thought was an outstanding throw to Ja'Cory Brooks down the right sideline that he should have gotten 2 hands on and probably brought in. I think we all know about the Ajay Hall catch. The Latu touchdown should have been an easy touchdown. I mean, there were several instances where it felt like, the game could have swung the other way. So I thought he hung in there and made some unbelievable throws. And I think that was kind of, in a lot of ways, just the team went with him, especially in the later half of the season. They all battled, stayed in there. And so, certainly, there's no moral victories when you've won that many national championships, especially. But I thought it was an outstanding effort. And Coach Saban, I'm sure, is proud of the way those guys battled. There was no give up. There was a lot of fight out there.
Yeah, including Jameson Williams, who wanted to go back on the field with a torn ACL, despite money that's on the table for him with the NFL. I feel the same way about the fight of that team there. Barrett Jones is with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline, suffering from...
There was only one guy who I'm not sure about his overall effort, and he's in the transfer portal, so I'm not going to talk about.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're not alone in that one. Don't worry.
Well, when you're a quarterback and you throw it into coverage, you expect your guy to go fight for it, right?
I am just really glad I did not have to watch that player anymore, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's all.
So Barrett Jones is with us, suffering from viruses 1 through 18. We will not go any further than 1 through 18. Barrett Jones is with us here today. The Tide looking forward now. All right. So next year, I think part of the comfort level Alabama fans have leaving the stadium is everyone's projected number 1 team next year is Alabama. It's not like that felt like the end. In fact, all the young people that were playing, all the replacements were playing, almost was fueling in to what is expected to be an unbelievable roster in 2022. Do you feel the same way that the experience that the DBs got, the experience the linebackers got, like Dallas, Turner, and those guys, that all fuels and feeds into what 2022 could end up being?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, first of all, you start with the guys, who are the core players all year. I thought the best players on the whole roster probably were sophomores, this year. Obviously, you got Bryce Young and Will Anderson. Those guys are sophomores. There's some other really good sophomores. A guy who I talked about, I think Brian Branch is going to be a stud next year. He's a sophomore. I mean, there's just so many good players in that class. To me, the one, big question is going to be receiver. And obviously there's a ton of talent there. I mean, a ton. But the run at receiver that Alabama has been on has been unbelievable. I mean, it's if there's another run like that, I don't remember it. And it's been incredible how many first round guys they've had, and how many of those guys they've turned into just awesome players. So, will one of those guys step up next year? Probably. Or will there be, some guy transfer in? That's another possibility now in this world that we live in. By the way, don't forget Eli Ricks is going to be added to that secondary.
Yes.
Team coming in from LSU. That's a big deal. So I think this should be a really good team next year. Absolutely. Defensively, there's a whole lot to be excited about. I mean, Dallas Turner, that's a great one that you listed there. He really grew up in that game. I thought had some unbelievable moments. I mean, that's going to be two very ferocious guys on both ends next year. Obviously, there's question marks as to who will come back. That'll be settled out. But there will be a ton of talent on this roster, and certainly a lot to be excited about if you're Alabama on both sides of the football. And also, you'd hope that offensive line-wise, there was such a good class last year that some of those young guys like J.C. Latham, who we saw a little bit in that Cincinnati game, will step up and be good players. So I would say the hopes are very high, and not to mention you got the Heisman Trophy quarterback coming back. That certainly doesn't hurt.
Barrett Jones is with us, presented by Gus's World Famous Fried Chicken, 2201 2nd Avenue South in Birmingham. Find him online, GusFriedChicken.com. That's GusFriedChicken.com. This is a Alabama and Georgia question, but for Kirby Smart in Georgia, and I know you get probably tired of hearing about the 2010 team, but a lot of people bring up the 2010 team because it was so talented, but it was, maybe you could disagree with this, Barrett, you're part of the team. Was it the hangover of winning that first national championship for such a proud program? And is that something Georgia faces? How does Kirby Smart avoid that? He's going to lose a lot of players, but that hangover of everybody telling you how amazing it is that you finally won that championship, that's a huge challenge for him.
Yeah, it was a challenge. I think that a lot of guys, came with the idea of winning a championship, and then obviously after 2009, you lose some good players, and it almost felt like the guys that were still there, maybe we weren't quite as collectively focused on winning a championship. We got a little more concerned about where we're going to go in the draft, that kind of thing. Not in a super negative way. It just wasn't the same kind of drive and focus as they had in 2009. And I think anybody you talk to, I mean, it takes everybody being on the same page if you want to win a national championship. You've got to have one singular focus of trying to get better every day, win each game, and obviously win a championship. So it is very hard. It's very hard to deal with success, very hard to repeat. And obviously that'll be, now Kirby Smart will get to deal with those troubles again. I think I've told this story on here before, but since 2010 happened, we won in 09, didn't win in 10, won in 11. And I'll never forget team meeting 3 days after the national championship, the day before the parade. And Coach Saban brings us there, the two, minus the seniors weren't there. And he said, all right, guys, hey, rearview mirror, we got to rip it off. I don't want to hear one more thing about the 2011 season. We're on to 2012. And we're sitting there thinking, we haven't had the parade yet. We're already having to move on. Like, come on. But he's like, no, we're never gonna let that happen like it did in 2010. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. You can talk about it at the parade, but after the parade, I don't want to hear one more person mention 2011. And we were like, man, we'd like to enjoy it at least. I know we got the 24-hour rule, but at least it'd be nice to have a week. But so that was it was an immediate grind and focus. I think that's kind of how he's operated ever since. So it does take a whole new level of focus. And you've heard him say it before. You end a little bit of a later date than everybody. So the time between you're done and you get started again, it's pretty short. You don't have very long before all of a sudden you find yourself in the fourth quarter program running sprints, thinking, oh my goodness, we just won the national championship and here we go again.
Barrett, one of the coolest moments Monday night, I didn't even see it until Tuesday, was post-game video in the press conference with Nick Saban and Bryce Young and Will Anderson. And the moderator said, Bryce and Will, thank you for your time. They stand up. Nick Saban gets them to sit down, holds their hand for a second, and talks about how special they are. And it was kind of that dad moment that a lot of people, have retweeted and resent out and have been talking about. And not to, get too personal or private, it seems like Nick Saban has changed a little bit. I think you've even alluded to that on this show. But has Nick Saban always had that relationship with his players, current players and former players?
I think to a certain degree, but he's certainly changed in the way he expresses it. I think there's no doubt about that. If you go back and look, I mean, he I think has started to think more about the impact he's having on these guys. Not that he didn't think about it before, but I think, as you get older, it's just natural to think about the legacy you're leaving and the impact you're having. And so I do think it was really cool to see that. And, I think it was also a combination of that and just how proud he was of those guys genuinely. I mean, this probably was the only time in the last, maybe at least since 2009, where you watched a game and you felt like at most position groups, the other team's probably better, which is a really unusual feeling for Alabama. Now, and look, they still could have won the game late. I mean, it was a really good game. And so there was almost a sense, I think, that, man, they really did battle as hard as they could and obviously fell short at the end. So it was a really, really cool moment. I'm with you. And I think that's probably something that you're seeing more and more of as Coach Saban gets a little older.
At the Ringer today, they write a story about Georgia is no longer chasing Alabama, that Kirby has built an Alabama-like program in Athens. For that to happen, it's got to be sustainable. It can't be just a one-off like a lot of championships have been, LSU, Auburn, going back for a ways now. Is Georgia sustainable? Is what Kirby is doing, is that sustainable?
Absolutely. I mean, it's certainly sustainable. I mean, that's. I told my wife that as we were leaving the stadium, I said, look, this is going to be an every year kind of thing now. Look, and the first sign is very obvious. It's recruiting. I mean, that's I know people like to say, oh, look, I was a 2-star and, J.J. Watt ended up being a first-round draft pick. And that's great. And, for every one of those, there's 1,000 people that don't really turn out to be that good players. So if the more 5-stars you recruit, the better off you're going to be. That's the reality. And they're recruiting at a pretty aggressive clip right now. So Georgia's going to be there for a long time. And I think they're going to build something over there that's pretty special. And we're going to have a lot more really special games between Alabama and Georgia over the next few years. And hey, now the next thing that's hitting Georgia, it's already started, that's hit Alabama, is going to be the staff turnover. I mean, the same kind of thing's going to start to happen there that you've seen in Alabama. You already saw it with Dan Lanning, who I'm a big fan of, getting the job at Oregon. So they're going to be dealing with the same problems for sure. But yes, Kirby's done a great job of building something that's going to be around, in my opinion, for a long time.
All right, he's Barrett Jones. He's presented each week by Gus's world-famous fried chicken, 2201 2nd Avenue South, online, gusfriedchicken.com.
Nobody will ever give me credit because we've got in queue over here, Barrett. I extended my question to you about Georgia, gave you time to sneeze and get back into the camera there. That was a
thank you.
Yeah.
I do. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, Barrett, do you have any further thoughts on how professional Jim is?
You're battling through it today, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for being so professional, Jim. I'm
just pointing it out.
I mean, who's going to pat me on the back? I mean, you guys weren't even paying attention.
Hey, Jim, I don't know if you guys ever read the 5 Love Languages book before, but Jim is certainly a words of affirmation guy. Okay?
For my own self. Nobody loves me 1,000%. Nobody loves me more than me.
Great job. Yeah. Look, I don't know if I'm coughing from, whatever I got going on or from the brain sample that someone took of me a few hours ago. But anyway, you guys, if you've had your brain sample taken, it's, what I'm talking about. It's a deep.
Well, they don't do that for COVID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 18.
Jeez.
I don't know, man.
Oh, my. Yeah.
All right, Barrett. Thank you for the time. Get to feeling better. We always appreciate it.
Hang in there, man.
Thank you for your professionalism, everyone except for Jim.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's okay.
That's very unlike you, Jim. You've changed.
We're all in the same. We were all in the same enclosed building. So
we didn't even talk about the basketball game last night.
We did not. I didn't figure you wanted to.
Well, we know how you feel.
An upsetting game. That wasn't kidding. That was a good game. But all right, we'll talk later. Good to have you guys on here. Excuse me. Good to be on here with you guys. Got a little brain fog. and we'll talk soon.
All right, take care. That
See
is
you,
Barrett
Barrett.
Jones with us.
We love you.
Presented by Gus's World Famous Fried Chicken. Barrett, like all of our guests, appeared on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.